Hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, mga ka-awesome, mga ka-ABC. Welcome back to another episode of Daily R's, the 3 R's we follow. Yung format natin, reading, reflecting, and responding to the Word of God, ito, the Scriptures. We read it every day, Monday to Saturday, actually. Yun. And why? Why do we do this daily? Because it is very important to keep our spiritual bodies healthy, ourselves reminded, diba, of this lifestyle that we have now as Christians. Ito kasi ang daily bread natin. If we don't eat, diba, sa physical bodies natin, we miss a day, hinang-hina tayo, diba? Gutom na gutom tayo. Even our mood is affected when we are hungry. Kaya may hungry and then hangry. Ayun. Then ganun din sa spiritual bodies natin that when we starve it, we become weak, we become forgetful, yung kalaban natin, and we become stubborn again, our hearts become hardened again. That's why we have to keep eating and reflecting and responding. And currently we are getting our nutrition from the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 17 tayo tonight. We're going to continue reading on David. Ito, after Saul, na-introduce na kagabi si David. And itutuloy natin yung kwento niya ngayong gabi. And syempre, ang kasama ko dito sa stream ay si Kuya AG. Ayun, how are you, Kuya AG?
Okay naman, bro. Yun, holiday, walang pass. So, medyo naka-relax. Medyo nagkaroon ng time sa aking wife. Yan.
Yes.
Ikaw, bro, musta?
Holiday nga. Okay din naman. Ganun din. Family time, tas umuwi yung tito ko. So we had most of the day spent with family din talaga. So refreshing, tas relax lang. Umulan pa, so bonus yung ulan talagang nakadagdag sa mood. So yun, no? Awesome. And kayo din mga ka-ABC, hope you are well. Pahinga din, no? Itong mga bakasyon, sulitin natin na pahinga. Be with yourself or with your family. Make it count kasi solid yung trabaho din, malugo. Ayun. Thank you, Kuya AG, for the update. Batiin naman natin yung mga nakapasok na tulad ni Ate Kat. Dito na siya. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Ate Kat. Unang-una ka ngayon. And si Frances. Awesome evening, everyone. Nasa YouTube siya ngayon. Subscribe na rin kayo. And si Kuya Jesse. Hi, hello. Hello, hi. And of course, mga parents ko. Hello, Dad. Good evening. And si Mother. Good evening daw. And si Kuya Jess may pahabol. Awesome evening, everybody, everyone. Pahabol na greeting from Kuya Jess and si Ate Karen. Good evening din, Ate Karen. And si Tita Cot nandito rin. Blessed Tuesday evening. Yun. Hello, Tita Cot. Good evening din sa inyo. Ayan. So, sila palang nakakapasok. No worries. While we wait, recap from what happened so far. Yung nabasa natin sa chapter 16 verses 1 to 23. Ito yung na-anoint na si David, no? Magkakaroon sila ng bagong king. Pero syempre, hindi agaran, no? Pakilala pa lang si David dito from last night. Tapos, pa nga sa first part, no? Yung verse 1 in chapter 16. Samuel was mourning for Saul because it's such a loss. Parang ganun yung pakiramdam ni Samuel for Saul because may potential si Saul, but then he was defeated by probably his pride, or basta he was overcome by sin, no? Na-overcome siya ng sin, nakalimutan niya yung priority niya, which is he is king for God, pero naging king siya for himself. So he was rejected by the Lord as king. So now si Lord, inutusan niya si Samuel na sabi niya doon sa anong verse ba to? Verse 1 pa rin eh. I am sending you to Jesse of Bethlehem because I have selected for myself a king from his sons. Ito na yung king na sinasabi niyang man after God's own heart. Ito na yun, yung i-anoint niya dito sa chapter 16. Pero, may revelation din sa character ni Saul dito na sa verse 2. Sabi ni Samuel, paano ako pupunta? Pag nalaman to ni Saul, papatayin niya ako. So, we can see that Saul is aggressive against his competition. He wants to keep his kingship, it shows another side of his character. Diba? Na he's that papatay siya just to keep his kingship. But nothing can really stop the plan of God. If God planned it, it's really gonna happen. Ayun, hindi rin talaga nagkakamali si Lord. So, pinatuloy pa rin ni Lord si Samuel. He gave he gave Samuel instructions, and then pinapunta niya nga kila Jesse in Bethlehem for him to anoint the next king. And then umabot na si Samuel doon, parang tinawag niya lahat ng anak ni Jesse, and he saw Eliab. Tapos akala niya yun na yun. Sabi niya, certainly the Lord's anointed one is here before him. Pero sabi ni Lord kay Samuel, don't look at his appearance or his stature, because I have rejected him. Humans do not see what the Lord sees. For humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart. So, something we already know, pero it's such a refresher. It's a refresher for us that physical appearance, sure, diba? Sure, hindi yan discounted, pero hindi yan top priority for us. Pero for the Lord, what really matters is the heart. You may look good, you may smell good even. Pero if your heart is just mabaho naman din yung ugali, parang, diba? Ang dungis ng ugali mo, yung puso mo maduming-madumi, it does not matter. Your outward appearance does not matter. What matters for the Lord is the heart. So, it talks of dapat genuine yung relationship natin. Dito, yung parang part ng foundation natin on how we approach our relationship with the Lord. Dapat genuine, our actions are intentional, we really want to praise Him. Yung mga ganun, no? Dito lahat yun because the Lord sees the heart. And all throughout the life of David, na-amplify yan. Even in the Psalms, diba? Makikita natin how also David talks to the Lord. So, it's really all about the heart in this part. Ayan, that's in verse 7. And it continues on. Wala pala doon si David. So, tinanong ni Samuel, may anak ka pa ba? Sabi niya kay Jesse, meron, pero wala doon. Sa verse, 11. But right now, he's tending the sheep. So Samuel told Jesse, send for him. We won't sit down to eat until he gets here. So hinintay talaga nila si David. Kasi siya naman talaga yung pinunta ni Samuel doon, si David. And once David was there, the Lord said, anoint him, for he is the one. So planado din, no? Parang how Saul was selected before, ganun din kay David. It was all planned by the Lord. And then, so verse 13, so Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on David from that day forward. Then, yun, na-anoint na si David, then the Spirit of the Lord is with David. Just like how the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully with Saul nung first time din, di ba? Ganun na ganun din. But since yun nga, the Spirit of the Lord left already, Saul, eto na, kay David na siya. Because the Lord had already rejected Saul as king. And then after that, verse 14 onwards, naging armor bearer pa ni Saul, si David. So parang ang dating dito na matitrain si David to be king, diba? Parang shadowing ang dating, diba? When we are about to take a position in office or in our workplace, we shadow the one we are about to replace or we're about to be teammates with. Ganun nangyari, nakikita ko dito na si David naging armor bearer siya ni Saul. And also, he found favor in Saul. Sabi dito sa verse 21, when David came to Saul and entered his service, Saul loved him very much, and David became his armor bearer. Sabi din ni Saul kay Jesse, let David remain in my service, for he has found favor with me. Ayun, because also how they met or paano na-assign si David to be Saul's armor bearer. Because of verse 14, the Spirit of the Lord left Saul, and now an evil spirit sent from the Lord began to torment him. So he was conflicted, he was bothered na may problema, may issue si Saul, and he needs calming, someone to help him. So one of his servants gave him an advice na look for someone who can play the lyre. And then someone also recommended one of Jesse's sons, which is David. Apparently, David can play the lyre, and that's how Ang description pa kay David sa verse 18, I have seen a son of Jesse of Bethlehem who knows how to play the lyre. He is also a valiant man, a warrior, eloquent, handsome, and the Lord is with him. Ayun. So, Saul sent for David and he became his armor bearer. Kumbaga, lagi na niyang kasama si David noon. And doon tayo huminto kagabi. And every time, by the way, Saul would be tormented by this evil spirit. So David would pick up his lyre and play. And then Saul would then be really relieved, feel better, and the evil spirit would leave him. So, ganun, malaking tulong si David for him. That's why also David found favor in Saul or Saul. Ayan. And that's the reading from last night. A lot more comments, by the way. Yun lang recap, yung mga comments, hindi ko na nabanggit kasi madami. But dun siyang panoorin, yung video nandiyan lang sa Facebook page, also in YouTube, on YouTube. And tonight, we are going to proceed now sa chapter na I believe we are all familiar with. Sa chapter 17, kalahati muna, verses 1 to 30. David versus Goliath, right? Ang daming lessons dito, childhood stories, Sunday school stories, VBS stories, lagi gasgas na gasgas yan. But tonight and tomorrow, we're going to reflect on it in detail, as in all 58 verses. Yes, 58. Mahaba pala siya. Nagulat ako. Pero hanggang 30 lang tayo tonight. Ayan. So if you're ready, type awesome. And ready your Bibles as well. So batiin na muna natin yung, habang nag-awesome kayo, batiin natin yung mga humabol, si Ate Lore. Ayan. Good evening din sa'yo, Ate Lore. Mismo, Daily Bread, Kuya Jesse. Hello, Kuya Aki. Good evening sa'yo. And si, ano pa? Ayun, nag-awesome na sila Kat, sila Ate Leia, si Josh. Dito na rin. Awesome. Hello. And si Francis, awesome. Ayan. Alright, so I think we are all ready. And sige, let's do this. Kuya AG, game ka na ba magbasa?
Yes, bro. Sige.
Alright.
First Samuel chapter 17 verses 1 to 30. Okay? Here's the reading. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Soko and Azekah, in Ephes Damim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, with a valley between them. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had bronze armor on his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And the shield bearer went before him. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. And the Philistine said, I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of an Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse had followed Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest. The 3 eldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. For 40 days the Philistine came forward and took his stand, morning and evening. And Jesse said to David his son, Take 4 brothers and ephah of this parched grain, and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well, and bring some token from them. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose early in the morning and left the ship with the keeper, and took the provisions and went, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle line, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. And David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage, and ran to the ranks, and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines, and spoke the same words as before. And David heard him. All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David said to the men who stood by him, What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine, and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? The people answered him in the same way, So shall it be done to the man who kills him. Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. David said, What have I done now? Was it not but a word? And he turned away from him toward another, and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before. God bless the reading.
God bless the reading. And thank you, Kuya AG, for reading the verses. And yan, hanggang 30 lang muna tayo. So, wala pa yung battle nilang dalawa. But it is a good intro for ano ba ang ginagawa ni David before he got on to this battle. It gives perfect background na hindi talaga siya kasali sa military. Diba? He tends for his brothers and the sheep of his father. And he tends for Saul as well. Hindi talaga siya kasali dun sa army. And ayun, it was ang elaborate din, no? Description, how Goliath was described. He was huge. Even his weapons are big. And he was really their champion. Parang ganyan. And it was also a practice before to, anong ba tawag doon? Save their men. Kasi they always go to war. These nations, not just the Israelites or not just the Philistines. Everywhere. So instead of losing much people in just a battle, one battle, what they do is they choose champions and one-on-one na lang, and whoever wins, that's it. So they choose their strongest fighter. And then after that, very na-emphasize how Goliath could be very overwhelming as a champion from the Philistines. And because of that, Israel, they lost their courage. So verse 11, Saul and all Israel heard these words from the Philistine. They lost their courage and were terrified because he was talagang lang hahamon kasi itong si Goliath. And to see his size and that they too cannot, it's not a fair fight because of the setting, no? They really would lose courage. And then a lot also we can read from how David spoke in this part, how he told about the Israel as being God's army, not Saul's army, right? So yes, Saul is their king, but it's such a refreshing. It's refreshing to hear from someone that it is the Lord's army, hindi laging si Saul, because yan yung theme while Saul was king, no? It was his army, it was his victory, even Jonathan won the fight. Ganyan. So ang dami pwedeng pag-usapan, mga ka-awesome. So looking forward to your comments. Lagay nyo lang dyan sa comment section. Dito rin si JD. Hello, Kuya JD. Dito na rin si Arnel. Hello, hello. Ayun. So, looking forward to your comments. Kuya AG, syempre, ikaw muna magko-comment. Ano yung mga napansin mo?
Ayun. So, David and Goliath. Nung kanina, minessage ko ni Brother Jesse. Sabi ko, ano kaya itong, i-discuss na, yung chapter 17, 1 to 30. So yun, David and Goliath, sabi ko, wow, children's story. No? Pero actually, kung isipin natin, ito kasi pananaw ko yung mga sinasabi nating children's story, actually, pang adult, no? Very applicable sa adults. So minsan, ang tendency natin, pag children's story, parang, for example, Noah's Ark, yung mga gaya Adam and Eve, kilalang story ng mga bata. Then yung kay Jonah, kasi ito David and Goliath. Tapos lalo na pag Old Testament, tendency naman parang ini-snap na lang natin pag Old Testament. Kaya pag parang children's story, ang tendency ng mga tao, ng mga church members, more on sa mga let's say mga masyadong controversial topics. Example lang, instrumental music, ganyan, pre-millennial issue. Pero sa totoo lang, titingnan natin, ang pagiging sabihin natin, tao ng Diyos, sa totoo lang, madederive mo yung lesson sa pagiging tao ng Diyos based sa mga narratives na sa Bible, based sa stories. So, minsan masyado tayo nakatutok sa mga theories, okay? Pero ito, mga stories ito. Dito, David and Goliath. So ano yung mapupulot natin dito, yung tutunghayan natin? At yun nga, dito sa tatalakayan natin, actually hanggang verse 30 nga lang, so yung latter part, yung talagang bakbakan, bukas pa yun. So medyo intro pa tayo ngayon. So ito, sa chapter 17 verse 1, so yung Philistines, ang scenario dito, going back dun sa chapter 13, maalala nyo, no, si Saul, natalo niya yung mga Philistines. That was, say, some 27 years ago. And then ngayon, lumakas na uli sila, no? Lumakas na yung puwersa ng mga Philistines. And dito sa verse 4, and there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath. So yung word na champion dito, this refers to a person na parang middleman, or let's say ito yung nagsisilbing representative ng army, no? So kumbaga may magkabilang panig, no? For example, dalawang bansa, pag sinabing champion ka nitong Philistines, ibig sabihin ikaw yung representative ng army nung Philistia. So ganun si Goliath, ibig sabihin prominent siya, magaling na military. Okay? And siya ay galing sa Gath. Gath is one of the cities in Philistines, let's say city-state, no? So hindi lang basta city in our modern sense. So city-state. Ano bang example ng city-state? For example, Vatican. Pa ba? Yung mga bansa sa Europe. So ito yung scenario dito. And kung makikita natin, si Goliath ay, sabi dito, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. So, i-convert ito sa ating kapanahunan, sa ating way ng measuring. This is, sa nabasa kong isang commentary, ang height ni Goliath more or less sa 8'5 or 9'2. So, ganun siya katangkad. So, mas matangkad pa sa mga natin, no? Sa mga basketball players natin. So, ganun siya katangkad. So, hindi basta-basta itong si Goliath. At ganun din, kung titingnan natin, yung descriptions dito sa verses 5 to 7, talagang armadong-armado siya. Militarily speaking, talagang tawag dito, prepared na prepared siya, yung kanyang shield, yung kanyang suot, yung kanyang protection. So yun yung makalaban, yun yung naghahamon ng away sa mga Israelites. At dito sa verse 8, he stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul?" Choose a man for yourselves and let him come down to me. So yan na, nagyaya na siya ng laban, no? Gusto niya mapag-away. So gusto niya mangyari, may harap sa kanya. So ang sinasabi niya, kung matalo namin kayo, yung mga Israelites, magiging servant namin kayo. And vice versa, kung kami matalo nyo, mga Philistines, maging servant namin kayo. So ganoon yung gusto niya mangyari. And the Philistine said to sa verse 10, I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. Yun. So, ito yung dito eh. Ito yung medyo naging, sabihin natin, medyo naging foul na part, no? Dito sa verse 10. I defy, no? So, the ranks of Israel. So, kung isipin natin, sino ba tong kinakalaban ni Goliath? So, Israel. So, itong Israel natin, babalik tayo dun sa Pentateuch, no? Ano ba tong Israel na to? History nito. Ito lang naman yung bansa na pinili ng Diyos. Ito lang naman bansa na, let's say, inalagaan ng Diyos. Pinalaya ng Diyos mula sa Egypt. At after nakalaya sa Egypt, nagkaroon sila ng covenant, no? So basically, nung nakalaya sila, yung Israel, kumbaga yung Diyos, siya yung nagsilbing naging si Brother Jerome Brother Jerome Pasco And mentor ko rin to Yan, tinuturuan ako nito. Nabanggit niya, no, yung tatawag na suzerain treaty or let's say, yung emperor, parang naging emperor yung Diyos, no? So yun yung concept, yun yung nangyari sa between Israel and God. So ito yung binabanatan ni Goliath, no? Isang bansang bigatin. Kaya pagdating dito sa verse 11, when Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. So kung isipin natin, dito sa verse 11, natakot yung si Saul tsaka yung mga Israelita. So this reflects somehow, no, yung kakulangan ng pananampalataya or pananalig ni Saul tsaka yung maraming mga Israelites. Kung isipin natin, yan, malapit na election, di ba? So yung track record, babalik ko sa track record ng Panginoong Diyos. Ilang beses na ba silang niligtas ng Diyos, di ba? Tapos, ngayon, meron lang isang Goliath ngayon na lalabas. Then, matatakot na naman sila. Pero siguro, hindi natin siguro masyadong masisi kasi nga naman, nakasindak nga naman si Goliath kasi ikante nga naman siya. Pero isipin natin, ilang beses na niligtas ng Panginoon yung mga Israelita. Pero ito yung ito yung makikita natin dito. Among the Israelites, merong nag-stand out. Sa verse 12, now David was the son of an Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years, etc., etc. So, to make the story short, may nag-stand out sa Israel and that is David. So yung the rest ng mga Israelita natakot, including the king himself, no, si Saul. So that makes sense, no, bakit masasabi na na si David ay isang man after God's own heart. Kasi makita natin dito kung gaano katindi ang pananampalataya, yung pananalig sa Diyos. Imagine, no, lahat takot pero siya hindi natatakot. So kayo, parang real talk lang. Kunwari, for example, may mga may kaguluhan sa isang lugar, sa lugar niyo. Tapos karamihan ng mga kasama mo takot. Ang tendency usually natin, no, parang matatakot na rin tayo. Pero si David, yun yung kaiba ni David sa ibang Israelites, including Saul himself. Courage niya, yung faith niya sa ating Panginoon. So, indeed, he is a man after God's own heart. So dito, Makita natin, no? So, titingnan ko muna kasi ba mag-advance ako dun sa latter part na tayo eh. Dito lang tayo sa first part. So, dito makita natin, hinikayat naman, sa side naman ng ni Saul, hinikayat niya na yung na meron sanang lalaban dun sa dun kay Goliath. Dito sa verse 25 makita natin dito na yung sino mang makatalo kay Goliath, merong tatlong bagay na maaari silang matanggap. The first is yung parang cash, no? Parang treasures or riches, ganun. Second, magkakaroon ng princess, no? Mapapangasawa pa yung anak niya, yung anak ni Saul. And ito yung maganda, no? Magugustuhan to ng marami. Exempted from paying taxes in Israel. Exempted from paying taxes. So dito, isang napansin ko lang dito sa story na to. Naalala ko lang, speaking of Saul, going back dun sa mga naunang chapters, isipin natin. Si Saul, bukod sa siya ay good looking, siya rin ay matangkad, no? So isipin natin, among the matangkad siya at nabanggit din sa Bible na yung ganong klaseng height ni Saul hindi pangkaraniwan. So kung tutuusin, kung height lang pag-uusapan, si Saul sana yung si Saul sana yung pwedeng mag-represent talaga eh. Kung pairalin niya yung tapang niya, no. Matangkad si Saul. So siya yung supposed to be pinaka pwedeng humarap kay Goliath, pero hindi. So ito, to make the story short, ito si David, siya yung humarap kay Saul. At kinausap niya yung mga Israelita sa verse 26 onwards. And David said to the men who stood by him, "What shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" Yeah. So what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine? So gusto ko lang pansinin din natin, yung sinabi ni David, for who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? So bakit sinabi ni David itong uncircumcised Philistine, ba't pinagdiinan pa niya? Gusto ba niyang dito kutsain or laitin lang? Di ba sa kultura natin sa Pilipinas, di ba pag support ko gano'n, tinutokso yung mga support. Pero dito ba't niya sinabi yun, dahil ba sa gano'n? Hindi, ang dito isipin natin, yung circumcision, again going back to the Pentateuch and even sa time ni Abraham. Circumcision is pag na-circumcise yung lalaki, basically pumapasok sila sa isang covenant with God. So ang point ni David dito, anong karapatan nitong Goliath na to na hamunin yung bayan ng Diyos, yung hukbo ng Diyos na buhay? Di naman siya sino ka, parang ganun. Kami, yung mga Israelita, we are in a covenant relationship with God. Ikaw, wala kang covenant relationship with God. So kumbaga sinasabi niya, ito wala lang yan. Wala namang wala siyang connection sa Diyos, wala siyang relationship sa Diyos. So tayo, meron tayong relationship sa Diyos. Tayo, Israelita tayo. We are circumcised people. Tayo yung nasa covenant. So kung tayo nasa covenant, parang indirectly sinasabi ni David din dito, dapat malakas loob natin, no? Malakas loob natin, huwag tayong matatakot. Kasi nga doon sa mga unang verse na makita natin, natakot sila, nasindak sila ng isang kagaya ni Goliath. So hindi dapat kayong matakot. So through this, parang pinapalakas ni David yung loob ng mga Israelites. So ayun nga. Dami ko na sinabi, bro.
Okay lang, rekta mo na.
So sige. And then yung si Eliab, sige, yun muna. Mamaya na ulit.
Sige. Ayan, sige. Awesome. Thank you, AG. Ang dami, actually, yung sa mga nabanggit mo, ang nakikita kong theme is one against many, parang ganun. Kasi lumitaw si Goliath, di ba? Tapos nanakot siya, yung itsura pa niya nakakatakot kasi ang laki niya di ba? Anong reaction ng karamihan? Pati si Saul, takot sila, di ba? Kasi yun nga, Goliath defied Israel, knowing that also Israel was a powerful nation before because God was with them. And hindi rin basta-basta makakalimutan yung mga napanalo nila noon, how they took over Canaan. That magiging matunog yan across all nations. So for Goliath to do that, hamunin niya tong Israel, big talk. So nasindak na sila. Pero ito naman si David, iba yung attitude niya towards it. He had so much faith and confidence in the Lord na wala yan sa Diyos ko. Diba, parang ang dating pa nga, sino ka? Ang kapal na mukha mo? Parang ganun. Because God, I believe He acknowledges and He remembers every win, every victory that the Lord had given them. So, sino pa to? Magmula noon hanggang ngayon, buhay kami dahil sa Diyos. So, walang makakahinto sa Diyos ko. Hindi kahit tong Goliath pa to. Parang ganun yung pagkakatranslate to sa sinabi ni David sa verse 26 So, parang, di ba, yung attitude niya towards his giant, di ba, we always use that term, di ba, our giants, our storms, na nasisindak din tayo, di ba, natatakot din tayo when we face problems, na we feel uncertainties of this life, but having this kind of attitude like David, na, okay, I've been living for 30 years and it's all by the grace of God. Why should I fear now? Diba? I should be growing my faith in Him because He got me to 30 years and maybe more. So, sana ganun yung perspective natin like how David was. Even if he does not go to battle, sure, he tends to the sheep of his father, to Saul, and to his brothers. Pero kahit ganun pa man, ang taas ng faith niya. Diba? So, even as kinakwento to for, yun nga, childhood stories, ganyan, it's always the faith of David yung na-amplify, which is yun dito naman talaga yung tema dito. Even in detail, it's always the faith of David. But still, sure, David had faith, but in totality, it's the Lord's faith pa rin ng, that saves. And that's the reason why we're here, because God is forever faithful. Could you imagine if He's not and He has forsaken us? Wala, we're the end. So, always be grateful that our Father, our God is forever faithful. Ayun. And basahin natin yung mga comments. Sabi ni Josh dito, this is one of the first stories na narinig ko sa school when I was a kid. Kahit sa mga games, hindi mawawala yung mga Goliath concepts. Di ba? Yung mga giants, mga ganyan. Pero pag dinetali at pinag-usapan natin, ang dami palang insights and learnings. Ako din, kaninong binabasa ko siya. Binasa ko na hanggang sa 58 kasi ako rin bukas parang, ang dami palang na-miss out as a childhood story. So, ang daming details. So, mas maintindihan natin ngayon, di ba? So, kakaiba talaga yung courage na pinakita ni David dito kasi he genuinely knows that God will deliver them from Goliath mismo. And since we know the story already, hindi man siya nagsuot ng armor because he was uncomfortable with it. So, he went to battle. Wala lang, di ba? He had his faith as his armor. Yung mga ganung lessons natin as kids. And thank you, Josh. Sabi naman ni Kuya Jesse, fear or faith? Faith over fear dapat. God is bigger than all our fears combined. But still, we still acknowledge that fear is real. Fear is always there. We will always feel it, when we are faced with trials, problems, obstacles. We get scared. We get fearful of them. That's okay. That's okay. What's important is how we respond to that fear. Are we going to succumb to it and just do nothing and, alam mo yun, blame God for it? Na tinakot mo ako, parang ginulat mo ako, sinindak mo ako. Or are we going to hold on to faith and know that our God is way bigger than all our fears, all our problems, or our obstacles? So all these emotions are fine, but it's how we respond to them that's important. Faith. Dapat faith over fear. It's difficult to do. Easier said than done. Laging nababanggit to faith over fear. But it's so difficult. But it's also good that we experience this often or madalas nating na-experience to, di ba? Kasi ang hirap ng buhay and all. So we have so much opportunities to practice our faith, to grow our faith in the Lord. So take advantage of those, di ba? Of those storms, of those challenges. Thank you, Kuya Jesse. Si Kuya Arnel naman sabi niya, normally based sa sinabi niya, kung matatakot ka, kung matatakot ka, kung takot ka, kung matatakot ka, kung takot ang mga kasama mo, definitely yes, common yun at normal na dapat increase ang faith para lumaban. True. Pag natakot yung iba, parang domino effect din no? Pag may natakot, pati ikaw, uy, natakot na rin ako. Sila din kasi natakot, di ba? Ayun, so it's true. But then again, mismo, faith, strengthen our faith in Him. Yun, opportunities for us to strengthen our faith in Him, in God. Dagdag pa ni Kuya Arnel, pagbibigay diin yung kay Goliath na wala siyang karapatan na laitin ang mga anak ng Diyos at apak-apakan ng sino man. True. How he really, paano ba yun? Tinakot niya kasi Israel, di ba? Itsura pa lang niya laki niya, tapos big talk, and then he defied the Israel and everything that it stands for, knowing that it's a powerful nation, governed, and this is God's people. So, di ba? So, lead din yung pananakot. But still, again, faith over fear. Faith over fear. Dagdag pa ni Kuya Jesse, verse 26, what a statement of bravery and courage because of his faith. Awesome. Di ba? Yung verse 26, pakita natin ulit. Ayan. Di ba? What will be done? He was asking for, basahin ko na lang. What will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Just who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? So parang sa kanya, di pa sila lumalaban. Alam niyang panalo na because God is with us. Ganun yung approach niya with this battle. But for the others, wala sila pa rin 'Di ba? Si Saul nga nagbigay pa ng reward for whoever can defeat Goliath. As if they're going to lose. Talagang they already tinanggad na nila sa equation si God. Kumbaga, they're trying to solve the problem themselves. But for David, hindi. God is with us. We're going to win this. Parang ganun. So his faith is strong. It's not arrogance. Parang mali yung pagkakasabi ko dun. It's not arrogant that like how I said it, but he's just had faith and confidence in the Lord that the Lord is with them. And si Kat, sabi naman niya, kung nagwo-workout tayo physically, dapat i-workout din natin yung faith natin. Palalimin natin, palawakin natin, palakasin natin mismo. And how do we do that? Reflecting like this, diba? The more we get to know our God, the more we have our confidence, the more we trust in Him. And then, when we respond, we put into action all these things that we are reflecting on, then our faith, diba, strengthens as well. So, kaya physical food, yes. Physical workout, yes. Ganun din sa spirituality natin, spiritual food and spiritual workout. Pareho lang yan. Thank you, Kat. Awesome illustration. Yun. Thank you, mga ka-awesome, for your comments. Dagdagan nyo pa yan. And tuwagin ko ulit si Kuya AG. Ano yung second part nito, AG?
Ayun, yung last three verses regarding kay Eliab. So, narinig ni Eliab yung pag-usap ni David sa mga ibang Israelites. So, nangyari dito, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, "Why have you come down, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption in the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle." So, yan na. So, si Kuya Eliab. No? So, dito, makita natin, then verse 20, sabi ni David, "What have I done now? Was it not but a word?" So, medyo lang to, itong sa verse na to, medyo nakaka-disappoint lang, yung naging attitude na pinakita nung kuya ni David, yung panganay niyang kapatid, si Eliab. Kasi kumbaga, imbis na encourage niya yung kapatid niya, pinagdudahan pa niya, no? So, ba't ka pumunta dito? Ba't iniwan mo yung mga nagpapabaya ka, iniwan mo yung mga inalaga mong tupa, yung napapastol ka? Tapos hinusgahan pa niya yung motibo ni David. Parang gusto lang niya na manood ng laban. So dito makita natin na minsan meron tayong yung mga tao may magandang intention, gustong tumulong, pero imbis na encourage, dinidiscourage pa, no? Dinidiscourage pa. At ang masayat dito, minsan yung nagdi-discourage sa tao is yung malalapit pa sa kanila. Kagaya nito, yung kuya ni David. At di ba sa panahon ngayon, no, nakakalungkot lang din, lalo sa social media pag nakikita ko. Nauso yung nauso yung tinatawag na smart shaming, o kaya yung para bang yung tipong parang bawal na mayroon kang alam. Pag tinatry mong i-correct yung ibang tao, ikaw na yung magaling. Parang ganun, no? Of course, yung iba naman, pag parang mayabang din naman. Pero may mga tao, marami na talagang sinasabi lang nila, alam nila, kasi with the intention na mapabuti yung tao or mapabuti yung, kumbaga makorek yung information. So, usong-uso to ngayon, smart shaming. And hindi lamang smart shaming, yung yung, let's say, hindi ko sure kung nababanggit to eh. Yung parang, siguro righteous shaming ba tawag doon? Na para bang sa panahon ngayon, kung sino pa yung yung mas questionable integrity, sila pa yung parang mas pinagtatanggol. May time na ganoon no? Parang medyo uso ngayon yun eh. So nakakalungkot itong maraming kagaya ni Eliab sa panahon ngayon. No? Ibig na encourage mo yung tao na gawin yung dapat. Ito nga parang very zealousy David. Pero i-discourage mo pa. O may mga comments pa minsan, idealist ka lang kasi. Mga ganun. Diba? Parang, ka lang kasi, ganito ganyan eh. Masyado kang, idealist. Idealistic ka lang. So, ganun. May mga ganung klaseng tao. And, pinagdudahan pa, I know your presumption. No? Nalalaman ko ang iyong kapangasan at ang kasamaan ng iyong puso. So, nagmamagandang loob na si David. Then, ito, merong manghusga sa kanya. Ano ka lang naman eh. Gusto mo lang umusyoso eh, parang gano'n. May masama ka lang, parang, di ba? So, may ganun tendency yung mga tao. Nakalungkot lang. And, sana, between Eliab and David, sana maging kagaya tayo ni David. Instead of discouraging yung mga taong may magagandang hangarin, yung mga taong talagang sincero, dapat mas encourage pa natin sila. At isa pang napansin ko dito, titingnan natin. Ayoko mag-advance sa latter para bukas na yun. Si Eliab, he is the eldest brother, Siya yung panganay. Pero ang umarap kay Goliath is si David. So dito sa scenario na ngayon, makita natin. Merong Saul, siya yung matangkad, Goliath, Siya yung matangkad. Actually si Saul, yung height niya, kung babasahin natin sa kanina, height niya hindi pangkaraniwan. Talagang matangkad siya as an Israelite. Hindi siya lumaban. Hindi siya yung umarap kay Goliath. And ito si Eliab, mas matanda kay David, hindi rin siya lumaban. Sino yung lumaban? Isang katulad ni David. So, makita natin dito, kapatid ni David si Eliab, Si David, kung isipin natin, para siyang isang, hindi parang siya isang type of Christ. Bakit type of Christ? Kagaya ni Christ, kung pupunta tayo sa New Testament Scriptures, kagaya ni Christ, nireject din siya ng sarili niyang mga kapatid. At least nung first, nung unang, yung first part ng ministry niya. Pero makita natin later on, after the crucifixion, after his resurrection, somehow, ina-affirm na siya o nire-recognize na siya mga kapatid niya. So, yun yung pagkakahawig ni Jesus at David. Si Jesus, hindi siya kinilala ng mga kapatid niya during his ministry. Parang wala silang pakialam. Ganon din dito. Si David, wala din pakialam sa kanya, sa ministry niya. Ministry ni David, wala din pakialam si Eliab na sarili niyang kapatid. So makita natin yung yung pagiging type of Christ ni David. Okay? And ayun, so Yun muna.
And thank you, Kuya AG. We can see again yung emphasis on the importance of instead of criticizing or judging someone, di ba? Or shaming someone. Ito nga, parang kala ko tuloy-tuloy ni Francis i-enumerate isa-isa eh. Victim blaming, smart shaming. Marami-rami kasi yan eh. Pero it all boils down to like hurt pride, face saving. Ganyan ang mga root cause ng mga yan eh. Which is, kaya siya hindi nagiging constructive. And in this part, instead of yun nga, di ba? Supporting or encouraging his brother. Parang, hindi ka naman kasali dito eh. Dapat nagpapastol ka lang. Parang ganun ang dating. So parang nabaliwala na yung bunso nila. Which is like, nagtatanong nga naman siya. Yun lang naman, sabi nga sa verse 28. Anong ginawa ko? Di ba nagtatanong lang ako? Parang ganun. But biglang attack ang nangyari agad from Eliab. So, ayun. So, agad, criticize and judge agad siya. So, yeah. And sabi din ni Ate Ken dito, sakay ako sa comment ni Kuya EG about dun sa brother ni David. Parang yung kwento ni Mary and Martha, yung sisters ni Lazarus. Ito ba yung Martha lost, nawalan siya ng sight of the perspective that Jesus was there. Pero siya, aligaga siya sa pag-prepare. Ito ba yun, Ate Ken? So comment mo lang kung if you have your thoughts about it. But yeah, is it? I'm not sure. Sabi naman ni Kuya Jesse, nagtatanong lang naman si David, nahusgahan at napagalitan. Napagalitan pa siya nung kuya niya. Napagalitan siya agad. Mga kapatid niya pa gumawa nito sa kanya. True. So, and ang ganda rin ng comparison na ginawa ni Kuya AG, about about Jesus and David. So in times, may mga ganun din talaga. You will be discouraged, criticized by your work, by your character, being godly and all. Pero napaka-inosente mo lang talaga. You're doing things out of innocence and good intentions. There will be people talaga maungot siya. But we keep going. Don't be discouraged. And if you know that it is for the Lord and wala ka naman din innocent, wala ka naman din talagang ginagawang mali. So, tulad si David, tatanong nga lang naman siya. Just keep going. Ayun. And ayan, that is up to verse 30 now. That's our reading for tonight for now. Tuloy natin yung half bukas. Syempre, may responses pa tayo sa mga ka-awesome. Share your responses from verses 1 to 30. Type nyo sa comment section at si Kuya AG ang mag-share muna. So, Kuya AG, ano naman ang responses mo from tonight?
Response, my takeaways. First, sana maging katulad tayo ni David, no? Yung faith ni David, yung kanyang pananalig. Be like David in the midst of a fearful Israel. So madaling sabihin, challenging gawin. Pero bakit nga ba si David ay nag-stand out sa mga kapwa niya Israelita? Bakit si Saul hindi siya nag-step up at this point? Bakit si Eliab hindi nag-step up? Bakit yung the rest ng mga Israelites hindi nag-step up? Bakit si David? At makita natin dito yung pananampalataya. Bakit ganun kalalo yung pananampalataya niya? Isang ma-share ko dito is because makita natin yung insight tungkol sa klase ng pananampalataya na meron si David sa Psalm 23. Basahin ko lang saglit yung Psalm 23. So may connection to eh. Ito Psalm 23, dito nakasalig. Ito natin bakit ganun na lamang yung tapang ni David, yung motivation niya, yung drive niya. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So ito yung reason. Ito yung meron si David kung bakit ang tapang niya, bakit ganun na lamang yung niya. But siya nag-stand out sa mga Israelites. Because he recognized that Yahweh is his shepherd. No? Sa first part, no? At the same time, makita natin, dun sa verse 5, sa verse 4, dun sa Psalm, makita natin, no? Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, parang reminiscing Goliath to technically parang nasa valley sila dito no? Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, this refers sa isipin natin, doon sa encounter niya with Goliath, I will fear no evil. Bakit? Because you are with me. So, para masabi natin na meron tayong pananampalataya sa Diyos, at i-acknowledge natin na first, He is our shepherd, siya yung nag-guide sa atin, siya yung yung gumagabay sa atin, siya nag-iingat sa atin, at i-recognize natin yung fact na kasama natin siya. No? So, sino sa inyo takot sa multo ng bata? Okay na sa multo. Kasi sa Bible din. So, takot sa dilim, no? 'Di ba pag ang tendency natin mga bata, pag takot tayo sa dilim, ayaw natin pumunta doon. Pero pag once sinamahan tayo ng parent natin, ng tatay natin or nanay natin, 'di ba naging naging kampante tayo. Kasi alam natin nakasama natin sila. So ganoon si David. David knows that God is with him. This is Psalm 23:4. And sa verse 5, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So mabang usapan to, no? Pag i-expound ko pa. Siguro sa ibang time na lang. In short, David recognized that Yahweh, siya yung Panginoon ng mga hukbo. He is the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts, no? Siya yung nangunguna sa hukbo ng Israel, no? Meaning siya yung protector nila, no, ng Israel. Na-recognize niya 'yon. So yung faith ni David, just like the faith of Moses. Saksiyan ni Moses kung anong klaseng Diyos si Yahweh, anong klase siyang protector. So ganun din yung klase ng faith ni David. Alam niya na yung Panginoong Diyos siya yung protector nila. At yun yung kulang kina Saul, yun yung kulang kina Eliab, yun yung kulang sa ibang mga Israelites that time. Di nila na-realize that God is their shepherd, that God is with them. Kasi nga meron nga silang covenant So na-realize na meron silang covenant relationship with Yahweh. Dapat dun palang lumakas na yung loob nila. Si David yung naka-realize nun. No? Kasi sinabi niya, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? Sino ba tong Philistine na to? Wala naman siyang covenant relationship with God. So yun yung klase ng faith ni David. So again, challenge ito, no? So madaling sabihin, no, na huwag matakot, no? Sa gitna ng nakatakot na bagay. Meron akong maraming yung kasama ko natatakot. But this should be a challenge for us, no? We should remember, nung tayo ay naging Kristiyano, nung tayo ay nagpabaptize, we entered a covenant with God. And when we entered the covenant with God, we receive His presence. So we are with God's presence. So yun pa lang, dapat lumakas na yung loob natin. So na-realize ni David yun. And another takeaway is, huwag tayong maging kagaya ni Eliab. Alam niyo mga kapatid talaga, akala mo sa congregation na. Mga kapatid, may nabasa akong research, bakit maraming mga millennials ang umaalis sa church. Di ko maalala kung millennials lang ba o Generation Z. Kasi yung mga millennials, yung mga matatanda sa congregation sa church, no. So not necessarily sa Church of Christ in general, isang research siya. Hindi nila binibigyan ng role, no? Hindi nila binibigyan ng role yung mga millennials sa church nila. Kasi sa totoo lang, gusto pala ng mga millennials na magkaroon sila ng active part sa ministry, ng active part sa church. Ngayon, ito si Eliab, imbis na encourage niya si David, hindi niya in-encourage. So, bigyan lesson sa atin ito, kung merong isang Kristiyano na very zealous, very eager to serve in the Lord, huwag nating i-discourage. encourage pa natin. Hindi yung isipin natin, bago ka lang sa church eh. Umahimik ka nga dyan. Wala ka pang, ilang years ka na bang baptize? No? So, minsan may tendency, pag matagal na sa church, parang, ang dating, parang, ayaw, yung isang matagal na sa church, parang ayaw na sasabihan minsan nung bago pa lang. No? Pero totoo niyan, lahat tayo may matututunan sa isa't isa eh. Kahit pa bata, mas bata sa'yo, o kahit pa, minsan kasi ang isang prejudice kasi sa totoo lang, nakalungkot ka sa Philippines. Yung kultura na para bang pag ikaw yung matanda, parating ikaw yung tama. Pag mas bata sa'yo, parang wala kang say. No? Pero hindi ganun eh. Kung babasahin natin yung buong narrative sa Bible, hindi yun tungkol sa kung sinong mas matanda eh. Kung titignan natin, yung trend sa Genesis pa lang, between Cain and Abel, si Cain yung panganay, siya yung matanda. Pero si Abel yung inaccept ng Panginoon. No, si Eliab, siya yung mas matanda, pero mas nalugod ang Panginoong Diyos kay David. So it's not about the age, it's about, again, nabanggit ni brother ni O'Neil. It's about your heart. No? It's about your heart, the state of your heart. So hindi yan sa tagal, hindi yan sa tanda. No? So una, maging kagaya tayo ni David. Pangalawa, wag tayong maging kagaya ni Eliab. No? So let's encourage kung sino mga zealous. Kung idealistic yan, tama naman eh. So encourage natin. No? So wag nating smart shaming. Kung talaga namang sincero yung tao, kung talaga namang gusto niyang tumulong, encourage natin. Wag tayong maging judgmental na ipagdududahan, gusto mo lang magbida-bida eh. Parang ganun yung gusto mo lang parang ganun. Wag tayong ganun. So, ayun lang mga kapatid. So, yun.
Awesome. Thank you, Kuya AG. Mismo, yung highlight talaga dito is the faith. Faith, somewhat, it's still the faith of David, pero biggest pa rin talaga is the faith of God, that all throughout from Genesis even, he already planned all of this to restore everyone. And he's faithful to the promise he made with their forefathers. And even until now, God is with us. That's how faithful he is. And it's just right that we respond in faith as well. Diba? Ayun. And faith, strengthen our faith. And yun, encouraging the potential of others. And dapat we are always trying to help others be better people. Ganun dapat tayo, hindi yung totoo rin yun eh, yung mga matatanda, yung mga angat, feeling nila ang gagaling nila kasi they've been there longer. Pero it's true, it's always how your character is the judge. It's the defining factor of you. It's not your intelligence. It's just a part of it. But your intelligence does not matter if your heart is really dirty and hard. So it's always the heart, and that's what the Lord looks at as well. We've read that tonight. Yun. And ayun, sabi ni Ate Karen, yun nga, yung about Mary and Martha, na distracted si Martha. So probably ganun din nangyari kay Eliab. Thank you, Ate Karen. And si Kuya Arnel, kasi sa tao ang quality and standard ay yung nakikita ng mata. Pero si Lord pinili siya, si David, kahit siya ay maliit at tila bata. Siya yung bunso, di ba? Tama, siya yung bunso. Pero it's because of his heart. That's why he was chosen and anointed by the Lord. It's always the heart, di ba? And si Ate Kat, sino nga po kasi yung takot sa multo? Kuya Hindi ko alam, di ako. And si Kuya GD, sabi niya dito, reflection. Pinapersonal ni David ang insulto ni Goliath kay Father God. Pinapersonal ni David ang insulto ni Goliath kay Father God. Ako ba or tayo ba? Daman natin yung insulto ng godless people or godless society sa tuwing kinukutsa ang ating primitive belief in God? Or medyo sumasidestep rin ako or tayo, gaya ng ibang Israelites, tolerating na okay lang insultuhin ng ating Diyos. I feel compelled to speak up and stand up for my faith among non-believers or those who insult Jesus. Hope maisabuhay ito. I hope or we hope maisabuhay ito kasi nakakaduwag talaga madalas. Mas nauuna yung awkward feeling or hiya or non-commitment kadalasan. It's been a while for me to take a stand among non-believing people which I encounter every day. It's true. No. insulting is different eh. Pagka questioning or asking questions about it's fine. Pero pagka na-insulto, we are overcome by fear of that we might be judged, that we might be shunned away. So we are choosing then our face saving than of keeping our relationship with Jesus, diba? So that's when we are faced with this huge choice. Do we stand firm on our faith, or do we just, hindi ako Kristiyano, ayoko mawala ng friends, yung mga ganun. So that question, it's very difficult to face those questions, and it's we are blessed that we don't face this much because of how we express our beliefs now. Pero there are people who face this madalas, parang si James, di ba? Nabanggit niya. So it's a real challenge. So it's just good that we talk about it, we encourage one another, very important, and ayun, strengthen our faith. Yun din talaga eh. We love Jesus more. We get to know Jesus more. Yun. Thank you, Kuya Jades, for the truth bomb dun. No? Totoo, nangyayari, it happens. And si Jane, sabi naman niya, I agree kay Kuya AG, they have the right heart and pure intention to serve the church pero not given the opportunity kasi bata pa. But then, that shouldn't be the case. They have the right heart. Now, let them serve the church. So, walang backdoor at walang umaalis. At kung ganun man, how I see it is, sure, the person does not show potential, and they bring out the potential in him, ganun. Because that's how it works. You don't wait. You help the person grow. That's how the church should be working. Diba? Hindi dahil wala naman siyang pinapakita intention, hayaan mo siya dyan sa sulok, diba? Parang ganun. No, urge everyone to serve because everyone has their talents has their purpose. So, bring that out of them, parang ganun. So, encourage. I agree, Jane, no? And si Kat, in response niya, don't let what you see cause you to doubt God. Short but real. Wala akong madagdag dito Totoo, don't let what you see cause you to doubt God. Yun. And si Kuya Jesse, sad reality na hindi binibigyan ng chance para magsilbi ang ilan kasi they are being looked down upon. Yun din talaga yung pride of being old, pride of being there longer than anyone else. Yun talaga yung utak it's you think you're smart, you think you're intelligent, you think you know it all, but naubusan ako dun. And si Francis, David has the courage, the heart, and the faith. Let's be like David. Ayun, pareho sa punto ni Kuya AG kanina. Amen, Francis. And, ayun, nag-cite na lang verse si Kuya Jesse na iniisip ko kanina pa. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. This is how Paul was encouraging Timothy because he was a young leader before, preacher. But set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Diba? Ayun. So, don't let anyone look down on you. As long as you know you're doing the right thing. How do we know? Ito pa rin ang standards natin na hindi yung morality natin na just the human morality. Standards of God pa rin. And if we are clear in that, we know God's will, just don't let anyone look down on you. The Lord is with you all the time. And ito yung verse, how Paul was encouraging Timothy at that time, and we can use the same verse as an encouragement as well for the young ones and young forever. What? And si Kuya Josh, sabi naman niya, agree. Defend our faith with love kasi our relationship with God is much more important than anyone else. It's true. And again, it's easier said than done. When we think about it, you feel empowered na I will stand up to my faith. I will defend my relationship with Jesus. Pero pag nandiyan na, I don't know what to say. Di ba, natutuyuan ka ng laway. Gusto mo na lang magtago. Pero, yun we have to prepare ourselves. That's why, how do we prepare on this, ourselves with this, for this? Ito pa rin. We continue to reflect, strengthen our relationship with Jesus. All the more that we love Him, then we will stand firm with our relationship with Him. Kasi ganun lang naman yun You can't defend someone you don't love. It's difficult because that person means nothing to you. But if Jesus means everything to you, you'll stand up for Him. Diba? So, it's always about, yun pa rin yung core, that love. Ayun. And yeah, Josh, awesome. Thank you. And, ano pa ba? Ayun, wala na. Awesome. Thank you mga ka-ABC for your takeaways, for sharing with us tonight. And, diba? 30 verses pa lang yan. Nauti tayo ng 11 minutes para pag all hanggang 58. So, kung wala ng takeaways and comments, bukas ulit, 9 p.m. onwards. Same page, Awesome Believers Cross Facebook page and sa YouTube as well. And thank you, Kuya AG, for being with us tonight, for your insights as well, and mga ka-awesome for supporting this group and sharing with us as well every night. And yeah, continue to stay awesome, stay with Jesus, stay safe and healthy, mga ka-awesome, and let the light shine wherever we are. And let the ginagamit ko yung lumang script niya. Let the light shine wherever you are, and let the love of Jesus be seen in us. And God bless, good night, and of course, don't forget to pray. Bye-bye.